So after a very, very disappointing season for Liverpool, it's being reported that FSG are deciding to sack Arne Slot and he will not continue as the Liverpool manager in 2026-2027. And to be fair, for me personally, it's not a surprise, man. When you look at the Salah situation, it's not just this latest one where, he posted on social media talking about, oh, we need to go back to the Liverpool way, the heavy metal, rock and roll football. Not even that, but simply, the situation with him and Arne Slot at the start of the season, earlier on in the season, where he was saying that he felt like a scapegoat. He felt like, Arne Slot disrespected him. Obviously, now you have Curtis Jones. Apparently, Curtis Jones, if Arne Slot stays, he's on his way out. Curtis Jones, he wants out. Apparently, he's not been happy this season about how the standards have really slipped, over the course of the season. He's fallen out of the manager, and obviously under that Salah post, he put, round of applause emoji, so he's pretty much sealed his fate. Apparently Inter Milan are looking to, bring Curtis Jones in. I think he's a very, very good player, me personally myself. I think he'll do well in Italy. Apparently Alisson Becker, he's on his way out as well. Apparently Juventus are gonna try bring him in. Robertson, Salah, they've already confirmed that they're leaving. It feels like everyone's trying to run away from this Arne Slot guy. You know what I'm saying? It's funny. Everyone's trying to run away from this guy. And to be fair, this season for Liverpool, it hasn't been great. It just feels like the soul has been sucked out of Liverpool Football Club, if you get what I mean. It just doesn't feel like a Liverpool side. We're so used to seeing, Jurgen Klopp on the sideline, beating his chest, showing passion, the fans getting up. Whereas Arne Slot, it's a really different vibe, you know what I'm saying? It's a different vibe where it's just like, he just sort of got his hands in his pocket, When Liverpool goes down a goal, you're not really seeing him, trying to get people up. He's not really trying to get the crowd up. The crowd doesn't seem behind him as a manager as they did for Klopp. No matter how bad it got under Klopp, I remember that 2021 season under Jurgen Klopp where Van Dijk got injuries. They had so many injuries, you know what I'm saying? But it still looked like the players wanted to fight for him. Even, in the season where there were fans in the stadium, the early Jurgen Klopp days, it still feels like the fans were behind him, you know what I'm saying? It felt like there was a connection between him and the fans, whereas with Arne Slot, there's just no sort of connection, which was fine for the first season. But I feel like this year he was really expected to kick on, especially after that fast start. 5 wins out of 5, you know what I'm saying? It's so crazy that they had 5 wins out of 5. Aston Villa didn't win their first 6. And look at the contrast in the 2 seasons, you understand? But back to Arne Slot, it just feels like there's no connection between him and the fans and him and the players as well, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, so many players are looking to leave, looking to, run away from this guy. And yeah, you can see it from the lack of performance on the football pitch. This season, it just hasn't been a team that looks like they're willing to fight for their managers. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing sloppy play from Konate and Van Dijk at the back, which I don't even think is a skill issue. I just think it's more of like a mental concentration issue. It's more just a being locked in issue. I don't think they perform like that under Klopp. I don't think, they just have these mental lapses. I feel like mental lapses at times, it can attribute to, you not being happy at a football club or you not being happy in a certain situation. If we've played football before, we all know, like, when we're not happy, with a manager or a certain team, we'll be on the pitch and we're just sort of going through the motions. And that's what these Liverpool players have been doing this season. Jamie Carragher said that they've been sleepwalking this season. They've been sleepwalking to, poor results. And it has cost them, because some of the performances this year, definition of sleepwalking, it's been horrible. I think about the draw at Spurs, sleepwalking to that result, 1-0 at home up against Spurs at Anfield, the worst Spurs side in the last, I don't know, God knows how long. You should be punishing that, beating them 1-0 up, early goal, punishing that. The 3 games against Man City, especially the 2 at the Etihad, the 1 in the league and the FA Cup, no fight whatsoever. And then they lost to Man City at Anfield, and Man City don't win at Anfield. They don't win at Anfield. They haven't won at Anfield when there's fans in the stadium since 2003, and I'm pretty sure this was the first time City did the double over them. You know what I'm saying? Even further back than 2003. So it's just been little signs like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like certain players aren't really locked in. Also, there's been criticism over his recruitment. You bring in Frimpong as a right back, but now you're forced to play him right wing because you realise that he's really a wing back and he can't really do the defensive side. Now Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai are having to do a job. Kirkes didn't hit the ground running Isak, you know, that whole Isak saga, he could never get going. And once he did get going, he got injured. You lost Ekatike. Florian Wirtz, we still don't know if he's better on the left or in the 10. You know, the midfield issues did not get addressed. You brought in a centre-back, you brought in Leone, but he's been injured as well. So there's just a lot of question marks, over Liverpool. And I said it about Xabi Alonso. I feel like he was smart to pick Chelsea over Liverpool simply because of the uncertainty around the club. There's just so much uncertainty around Liverpool. We don't even know if they do sack Slot, who's going to be their next manager, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just feel like the main thing is the players. The players with the manager, it just feels so different. It feels like under Klopp, they were all really ready to die for him, you know what I'm saying? Whereas with Arne Slot, you can see, you know, with the Mo Salah fallout, the Curtis Jones fallout, you know, Van Dijk, he doesn't look happy. You can see Van Dijk, he doesn't look happy on the pitch. You can see when the camera pans of Van Dijk, he's looking around like, what the hell is this, bro? Like, what's actually going on? I'm not saying his performances have been perfect. I'm not saying that. But he's just sort of looking around like, yo, what the hell is going on? Szoboszlai the same. Szoboszlai sort of looking around like, yo, what's this? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it just feels like a lack of identity. And when a club like Liverpool have a certain identity, a certain style of play, and you come in as a manager and you try to change the style of play from what all the fans are used to for 10, 20, 30 years, it's very, very difficult. You have to get results, you know what I'm saying? You have to get results. In his first season, they allowed him, you know what I'm saying? They allowed him because he sort of kept it the same as Jurgen Klopp, you know, it was sort of the same players. He tweaked a few things. Sometimes he'll use that 4-2-2 formation to good effect. You know, he tweaked things, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold was still there. He was the creative outlet and it works, you know what I'm saying? Let Mo Salah stay high up the pitch and let him be our match winner. And we'll just compact that midfield and we'll win. And they got their way to a title, you know, pretty much in dominant fashion, you know what I'm saying? The title was done pretty early when Liverpool won it and they did well. But now he's tried to, you know, implement his style, you know, a more controlled tempo. But unfortunately for him, you need results because these Liverpool fans, they're not used to that. You know what I'm saying? They're not used to, you know, the controlled Pep Guardiola sort of pass. No, they need heavy metal football. They want heavy metal football. They saw it for 8 years under Jurgen Klopp and it brought them so much success. And even before Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool have never been this club where it's just pass. It's always been, when you think of Liverpool Football Club, what do you think of? You think of pressing, you think of fast players, you think of, you know, Anfield, getting at the team, you know what I'm saying? Getting at the team. Not really the most technical players, but you need players who are willing to, you know, run, athleticism, you know, back and forth, heavy metal football. This is what Liverpool Football Club are all about, you know what I'm saying? You look at a guy like Fernando Torres, maybe wasn't the most technically secure striker, but what was Fernando Torres all about? Running in behind, pressing his defenders, chasing, you know what I'm saying? Causing havoc for top defenders like Nemanja Vidic. You look at their icon, Steven Gerrard, you know, Steven Gerrard is a fantastically technical footballer. However, what does Gerrard also bring? He brings that athleticism. He brings that, you know, back and forth ability to go forward and drive with the ball, that dynamic approach, you know what I'm saying? That's what Steven Gerrard was all about. That's why Gerrard throughout his career, he could play in the 8, he could play in like sort of the right of a diamond, he could play in the 10, even when he got older, he drops back in the 6, you know what I'm saying? That dynamism. Luis Suarez, chase, hustle. Even you know, lesser players like Dirk Kuyt. Dirk Kuyt is a Liverpool, you know, cult hero, I'd say. He wasn't the most technical, but what was it all about? It was about heavy metal, fast football. These are the sort of players that Liverpool Football Club are used to, you know what I'm saying? And when you come in and you try to change the system, you have to get results or the fans are just not going to get behind you. If you try to change the identity, you have to get results. So like I said, there's going to be this disconnect with the players and fans compared to you as a manager, you know what I'm saying? It happens at every single club, let's be honest, you know. It happens at every single club. Like imagine if a manager went into Barcelona and started saying, yo, we're not going to have the ball, we're going to be very, very pragmatic. Yo, unless that manager is winning every single game, he's getting sacked by December that year. You know what I'm saying? Because Barcelona don't play. I'm pretty sure Barcelona don't even allow, like, you know, 2 striker formations. I'm pretty sure I heard it somewhere that, you know, Hansi Flick does have a bit of flexibility to tweak certain things, but I heard that Barcelona is, 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 3 attackers. You know what I'm saying? A striker, wingers, and 3 midfielders. They don't do You know what I'm saying? They don't do anything else. You know what I'm saying? They don't do anything else. You even look at Chelsea. What are Chelsea known for? Chelsea are known for, their midfielders. Very, very dynamic midfielders, strong midfielders in there, grown men midfielders in there. You look at the Kantes, Nemanja Matic. You look at, Makelele, Ballack, Lampard, Essien. These are grown men. So when Mauricio Sarri, despite him bringing home a Europa League trophy, when he brought Jorginho to the club and he started implementing, Jorginho and Kovacic, and he started trying to implement, this pass, slow tempo from the back, the Chelsea fans, they weren't used to it. That's not their club culture, you know what I'm saying? That's not what they're about. So he had to get results. And when he didn't get results, obviously we had the League Cup final incident with Kepa. I'm pretty sure they weren't competing for the Premier League. I'm not sure if they finished 4th or 5th that year. They did get that Europa League trophy thanks to Eden Hazard masterclass. But you know what I'm saying? It was never going to work under, it was never going to work under Sarri, because unless he was winning every game and he was winning trophies at Akanto, the Chelsea fans, they just didn't resonate, you know what I'm saying? They just did not resonate with all those things. Ruben Amorim at Man United, you keep it simple, bro. You let the attackers ball. It's either 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2. You let the attackers ball. You strong, sturdy defense, strong midfield who can play football, and you let the attackers ball out. But once he started bringing all this free at the back nonsense and players didn't know where to go, and you're trying to convince the fans that Kobe Mainoo can't play with Bruno Fernandes, unless you're winning games, you're winning trophies at Akanto, it's never going to work, you know what I'm saying? I think that's the main thing with Arne Slot. He tried to change, Liverpool's the style of play, the culture, the identity of the club. And unless you're winning trophies, there's not going to be a lot of patience for that. Like I said, in the first year, he basically had Klopp's recipe. You know what I'm saying? He had Klopp's recipe, did well to tweak it a little bit and go on to win the league. However, he let go of players like Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez. And yes, Liverpool fans did criticise these players, but these players embodied what Liverpool was all about. You know what I'm saying? Darwin Núñez, that's why they loved him, chase. He didn't have to be a starter. And yes, he was overpriced, but you know what I'm saying? He would chase, dynamic, very quick, mobile. You know what I'm saying? This is what Liverpool players are. Look at Luis Diaz for Bayern Munich. Oh my goodness, bro. He's the definition of athleticism, dynamism, you know what I'm saying, on the ball, off the ball. He can dribble, he can make runs in behind. He's willing to chase off the ball. He has end product at times, at least this season. He's shown great end products. He had a great performance. I think he was in Slot's first year against Man United. He got a double at Old Trafford. I think he was phenomenal that day, you know what I'm saying? I'm a big Luis Diaz guy, even when he was at Liverpool. But, these are the players, you let go of these players. You try to bring in, a Florian Wirtz, Liverpool, they're not really known for their number 10. This is what I'm talking about, club culture. They did have Felipe Coutinho, though. Brilliant player. Firmino, he was brought in as a 10, but he ended up playing as a false 9. But even a Firmino, chase. Firmino, we all knew him as a pressing machine. And again, another example of, Liverpool DNA. Michael Owen back in the day. Run, pace, power, you know what I'm saying? That's Liverpool DNA. Liverpool DNA isn't, Florian Wirtz. Despite him being a fantastic footballer, he's Florian Wirtz. If he's in the right system for a right team, I do believe he can cook, you know what I'm saying? I do believe he can cook, and I do believe he can be a success at Liverpool. But I'm just trying to make the point where it's just like, once you try change it, it's very, very hard. The fans do get impatient. It's like Tottenham fans with Jose Mourinho. He had to win trophies. He had to win games. As soon as Mourinho didn't win games at Spurs, he was out of the door. Yes, they were silly for sacking him before a cup final. That was stupid, typical Tottenham. But Tottenham fans, they like the pretty patterns of play, you know what I'm saying? They like the pretty patterns of play. So when you bring in a pragmatic manager like a Mourinho, like a Thomas Frank, unless you're getting results, patience is going to be very, very thin, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's really what went wrong for Arne Slot at Liverpool, you know what I'm saying? Tried to come in, change stuff, and it just didn't work. And it seems like the players, the first season, the players looked like, all right, cool, we're having this guy. But then the second season, when he tried to really put his mark on it, put his flavor on the team, it just seemed like the players just weren't with it, you know what I'm saying? They just weren't messing with it whatsoever. And you can see from the Salah incidents, from now Curtis Jones, from now Alisson leaving, Robo leaving, you could see they just weren't really, they just weren't really a fan of it, to be honest. And I don't know where it is. Maybe it's like a Dutch manager thing as well. Maybe, Arne Slot's man management isn't really as good as Jurgen Klopp, because majority of these players, they're used to, an arm around the shoulder from Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp probably asked them, how's their day going, blah, blah, blah. But it feels like Dutch managers are more, they're more sort of stoic in a sense. They're more sort of, less hands-on in terms of, seeing how players feel and all of that. Because think about it, Mo Salah under Jurgen Klopp, what, in 7-8 years we had about what, maybe one incident with where there was real tension between Salah and Klopp. Apart from that, it was pretty much, a smooth ride. Curtis Jones under Jurgen Klopp, you didn't hear a peep out of Curtis Jones. He was a young kid brought into the academy. You didn't hear a peep out of him. You know what I'm saying? But now there's issues. So maybe it's a Dutch thing, because even with Erik ten Hag, he got sacked at Bayer Leverkusen. What was it? Before the season even started? Did he even get a game at Bayer Leverkusen? Because apparently, his communication skills, his man management was so poor that they were like, no, we can't have this guy in our club. He's gonna ruin this club. You know what I'm saying? Same at Man United. How many players did Ten Hag fall out with at Man United? He fell out with Varane, fell out with Casemiro, fell out with Cristiano. Who else did he fall out with? Was it Rashford as well? Or he probably had issues with Rashford, Martial, guys like this. Even Anthony, his own boy that he bought, Anthony had issues with him as well. So you can see, maybe it's a Dutch thing. You go back to Van Gaal at Man United. Di Maria, how many managers has Di Maria played for? He's played under Maradona and the likes of Maradona and Scaloni for Argentina, Jose Mourinho, Ancelotti at Real Madrid, Laurent Blanc, Gautier, Pochettino at PSG. You didn't hear a peep out of Di Maria. You didn't hear Di Maria was a troublemaker until he got with Louis van Gaal. And apparently, Louis van Gaal was just trying to make him play football that he wasn't willing to do, which is crazy, because Di Maria is one of the most selfless players of this generation. You ask Di Maria, he'll play on the left, he'll play on the right, he'll play in the 10, he'll play in the 8, he'll play in the 8 in front of a DM. He's done it all, Di Maria, you know what I'm saying? He's done it all. So for him to have an issue with a manager, the manager has to be wilding, in my opinion. The manager has to be asking something just outrageous from Di Maria, disrespectful. I remember, pretty sure Van Gaal was trying to play him left wing back, which is just a waste of a talent, waste of a mercurial talent, because he started that season so well as well. You know what I'm saying? The chip against Leicester, hey man, we all remember, we all know Di Maria's quality. We know what he's done throughout his career for club and country. But maybe it's just a Dutch manager thing. But that's the main things that probably went wrong for Arne Slot. Despite him bringing the league title home to Liverpool, I just think that once it was a Ten Hag situation, where with Ten Hag, he won a Carabao Cup in his first year, and then he got to an FA Cup final without changing too much. And then as soon as he tried to put his spin on things, that's when things started to go wrong. And I think it's the same thing with Arne Slot. He neglected the importance of the likes of a Luis Diaz, the likes of a Darwin Núñez. He decided that, he didn't really, take into consideration the difference in profile between a Trent Alexander-Arnold and a Jeremy Frimpong. That should have been taken into consideration, you know what I'm saying? He should have taken into consideration how to utilize a Milos Kerkez so he can replicate that form that he was doing at Bournemouth. Because at Bournemouth, Kerkez, he was overlapping. At Liverpool, he was sort of, Slot tried to make him do the inverted thing and play, but that's not his game. He should have brought someone else for that, you know what I'm saying? Should have brought someone else for that. So I just think it's just, with Slot, it's a combination of probably man management, just changing the identity and culture of the club, just a lack of connection with the fans and his players as well. So, hey man, I do think at this point Liverpool might sack Arne Slot. Whether that's enough to keep a guy like Curtis Jones, we'll see. But I do think he will get sacked, especially from the Mo Salah post and Curtis Jones putting emojis under it. I do think that puts a lot of pressure on FSG, you know what I'm saying? Because we know Liverpool are really like a fan-run club, They really, care about they take their fans, opinions into consideration, you know what I'm saying? So I do think he will get sacked of it. He will get sacked. He won't be the manager there next season, simply because that lack of connection with the fans. I feel like especially the main thing for FSG will be to get that Anfield that Anfield magic back, you know what I'm saying? To get that Anfield magic back, because it really does feel like it was lost in these last 12 to 15 months, you know what I'm saying? It feels like teams could just rock up to Anfield and there was no fear, there was no sort of aura, atmosphere whatsoever. We all saw what PSG did to them. PSG just rocked up, PSG just rocked up. Easy Champions League tie, you know what I'm saying? Easy work. Whereas the year before, hey man, they went all the way to penalties. But this year, easy work, man. What was the score on aggregate? Was it 4-1, 5-1? Something like that. And it was easy work, man. Dembele, Kvara, Skelia, easy work at Anfield, you know what I'm saying? Man City, they got a win at Anfield, you know what I'm saying? It just isn't the same, you know what I'm saying? It isn't the same. You look at their midfield, the athleticism that's usually associated with Liverpool teams just isn't there anymore. It feels like McAllister and Gravenberch just aren't, them type of midfielders. Gravenberch can do it, but Gravenberch seems like a guy, he wants the ball to feet, you know what I'm saying? And then he wants to use his athleticism to drive with it, whereas off the ball, it isn't really there. McAllister, he struggled with the physicality all year. Same with Florian Wirtz, whereas before, it was Jordan Henderson, it was Gini Wijnaldum, it was James Milner in that midfield, you know what I'm saying? It was Fabinho, it was guys like this. So I just feel like the culture, the identity of Liverpool Football Club has gone, and I feel like that's why they're probably going to get rid of Arne Slot. But let me know, man, Liverpool fans, should Liverpool get rid of Arne Slot? That's probably a silly question. Probably most of you are going to say yes, but hey, man, let me know.